In the far reaches of the galaxy, deep beyond the lanes of safe travel and trusted star lines, lay a blacked-out region known only by its official designation, Sector Z38. To the untrained eye, it was a patch of space like any other, stars blinking lazily, faint radiation echoes, an occasional asteroid drifting aimlessly, but to the Galactic Preservation Council, it was death wrapped in silence. Every probe sent had vanished, every scouting party gone. Some said the sector itself was cursed, haunted by ancient remnants of a forgotten war. Others whispered of living shadows, beasts without form, creatures too old and terrible to classify. Eventually, the Council issued a warning that spread across known space. Sector Z38 is under universal quarantine. Do not enter. Threat level Omega. In the years that followed, even the bravest adventurers and war-hardened mercenaries avoided the place like the plague. No one dared test the galaxy's gravest warning. Until Earth joined the Federation, and someone did. A Terran cargo freighter by the name of the Wandering Joy, an old clunker with more personality than tech, casually charted a path straight through the red zone. No emergency pings, no calls for clearance, no escorts, just a blinking green dot on galactic radar, passing smoothly into the void. When the Council picked it up, panic erupted. Emergency communications blared. Interceptor drones scrambled. A full diplomatic override was issued, forcing the vessel to respond. A hologram flickered to life in the Council chamber. There sat a human, middle-aged, scruffy, sipping from a mug that read "Space runs on coffee," humming a tune no translator could decode. He looked surprised, even amused, by the urgency in their voices. "Do you realize where you are?" one of the alien delegates barked. Sector Z38, the most dangerous sector in the quadrant. The human blinked, checked his display, then shrugged. Yeah, looked like a shortcut. Another alien leaned forward, eyes bulging. "You've entered a zone classified as Threat Level Omega. That means guaranteed destruction." The man gave a short laugh and leaned back in his seat. "Oh, that. Nah, no worries." Behind him, something moved. A blur of motion, a ripple in the air. Then a low growl echoed through the feed. A pair of glowing eyes blinked from the shadows, and what looked like a scaled tail swayed lazily behind the pilot's chair. The Council fell silent. Is that one of them?" Someone whispered. "You mean the pets?" the human asked, raising a brow. "Yeah, that's Fang. Don't worry, he's friendly. Unless you're made of meat and scream a lot." Another growl. Closer this time. Something heavy padded past the frame, shaking the camera slightly. The Council couldn't believe what they were seeing. Not only had this Terran gone into the deadliest part of the galaxy without so much as a shield, but he'd done it with creatures that had ended entire expeditions. Creatures the galaxy had written off as uncontainable. He called them pets. "Your ship. How are you still alive?" The delegate asked finally, in a voice hushed and strained. The man smiled and sipped his coffee again. "Look, we raised these things back on Earth. You just got to know how to talk to 'em. Give 'em a little love, a snack now and then, and they'll guard you better than any laser turret." The Council was stunned. Was this some Terran joke? Or had humanity done what no one else could, tamed the untamable? The transmission ended with the man yawning, stretching and mumbling, "Anyway, gotta go. Fang gets cranky if he doesn't get his morning walk." Then the feed cut. Across the stars, the myth of Sector Z38 began to unravel, not because the monsters were gone, but because the humans had brought them home. The Galactic Council, still shaken by the footage from the Wandering Joy, wasted no time. A delegation was assembled. Xenobiologists, security commanders, tactical analysts, and high-ranking diplomats sent on a mission to Earth under the strictest classification level. Their goal: to investigate how humans had somehow not only survived within Sector Z38, but had seemingly domesticated the very creatures the galaxy had labeled as extinction-level threats. As their ship touched down outside a Terran capital, anticipation buzzed like static in the air. The alien team stepped onto Earth prepared for chaos. Armed drones hovered close, scanners blinked with layered detection grids, and emergency protocols were uploaded and ready. But what they found wasn't chaos. It was a sunny park, laughter, green trees, children, and monsters, not attacking but playing. One delegation member, a feathered scholar from the planet Quarry, nearly collapsed in confusion as a six-legged beast, the same species that had once torn through an entire Federation outpost, bounded past them chasing a squeaky toy. Its scaled tail wagged enthusiastically as it dropped the toy at the feet of a giggling girl who scratched behind its spiked ears. "That one is called Gizmo," the girl said proudly, while the creature rolled onto its back, demanding belly rubs. A few meters away, a boy fed grapes to a creature the delegation's archives labeled Nitharax, a venom-spitting serpent capable of dissolving steel. But here it was, curled lazily in the boy's arms, its fangs tucked behind its lips, making a satisfied hissing purr. The delegation's scanners pinged frantically. All readings were correct. These were indeed classified threat-level Omega species, each capable of planetary damage, rapid reproduction, and unmatched predatory instinct. And yet, they were lounging in sunbeams, playing fetch, or napping in windowsills like Earth's own domestic cats and dogs. A large, shadowy predator, formless at the edges, its molecules in constant flux, drifted past the aliens like smoke before curling up on a park bench beside a sleeping old man. It let out a deep purr as he mumbled something about lunchtime. The head of the delegation, a stern diplomat from the crystalline world of Veltar, demanded answers. Earth's leading xenobehavioral specialist, a cheerful woman in a hoodie with a steaming cup of tea, seemed surprised by their concern. "Oh, you mean the glimmer shade? That's Daisy. She likes jazz and tuna sandwiches," she said, motioning to the smoky beast. The Veltar delegate nearly dropped his scanner. "That thing can phase through walls, devour energy sources, and has no known weakness." The woman blinked, then laughed. "She hates thunderstorms and vacuum cleaners. We think the noise stresses her out." The council ran more tests. Neural scans, behavioral simulations, even extreme stress experiments conducted under supervision, all pointed to the same result. These creatures, feared across the galaxy, had bonded with humanity in a way no species ever had. They responded to commands, recognized emotional cues, protected their humans, and more disturbingly, they wanted to. One teenage boy, when asked about the fanged, horned predator perched beside him, simply grinned and said, "That's Max. Found him in my backyard when I was 7. He ate my drone, but Mom said I could keep him if I trained him. He's basically a really big, bitey cat now." As the council delegation processed the impossible, a single realization settled over them like fog. These beasts didn't rule Earth. Humans did. Somehow, through some mix of madness, patience, and terrifying stubbornness, humans had turned the galaxy's worst nightmares into companions. The implications were staggering. If humans could tame monsters, what else could they control? What else would they turn into pets, allies, or tools? The council left Earth that evening with no answers, only data, questions, and a growing, uneasy respect. And across the galaxy, stories began to spread. Of Max, the smiling predator who played catch. Of Daisy, the living shadow who sang along to jazz. Of Earth, the only planet where nightmares purr, fetch, and obey. Dr. Olisar had seen many strange things in his lifetime, creatures that could warp gravity, spores that rewrote DNA, even parasitic starfish that fed on stars. But nothing prepared him for Earth. He had traveled there with one goal: to understand how a species like humans, with their soft bodies and reckless tendencies, had managed to domesticate what the Galactic Preservation Council classified as apex-level, extinction-tier creatures. He expected advanced technology. Perhaps a network of neural implants, mind-altering gases, or behavioral control via gene editing. But as he sat across from an old rancher in the dry southern plains of Earth, Scribbling notes into his datapad, he was met with the strangest answer yet. "You're asking how we raised Thunderclaw," the rancher said with a squint. "Patience. And snacks. Lots of 'em. Oh, and never look him in the eye the first few weeks. That just makes him feel challenged." Dr. Odazar blinked his 3 eyes. "Snacks?" he repeated, uncertain if he had heard the man correctly. "Beef jerky, mostly. Sometimes peanut butter," the rancher added with a shrug. Meanwhile, in a city park on the other side of the planet, his colleagues observed a fang-faced quadruped gently playing fetch with a group of children. When a reconnaissance drone, sent by Odazar's own team, zipped a bit too low, one of the horned beasts growled, swatted it out of the air, and then nudged a toddler out of harm's way with surprising delicacy. The child laughed and hugged its thick neck. The creature purred like a landslide. That moment made Odazar pause. These weren't mere trained animals. They weren't leeched, tagged, or drugged. They weren't afraid in the way prey fears its predator. No, they reacted like guardians, loyal, watchful, even affectionate. The research team launched dozens of interviews across Earth. A zookeeper in New Zealand shared how he had raised a burrowing acid beast from Sector X-19 by singing to it every night. "They like jazz," he claimed. A mother in the Arctic outpost described how her child rode to school on the back of a towering 12-eyed fur titan that was known to vaporize threats with a single roar. Except here, it wore a scarf and a saddle. "We just called him Mr. Snuggles," she said with a warm smile. Dr. Odazar began compiling data, logging each behavioral quirk, emotional response, and human explanation. Not once did anyone mention implants, sedatives, or control systems. Instead, he heard the same bizarre terms repeated: bonding, treats, cuddles, belly rubs, and firm but fair discipline. He witnessed a pack of spike-tailed horrors, each strong enough to level a building, waiting in line at a community pet wash. He watched a 12-tongued nightmare creature gently place socks in a laundry basket. He observed a glimmering phantom beast, known for absorbing life force, slowly rocking a crying baby to sleep with its tail. Each time, the creature's eyes never left the human it followed. Dr. Odazar's notes grew frantic. He wrote lines like, "These creatures are not tamed by dominance, but by care, and no signs of external control. Obedience is seemingly voluntary, and over, why do they obey?" Late one night, watching footage of a teenage girl teaching a fire-breathing serpent to roll over for marshmallows, he leaned back in his chair and murmured to himself, "They should have eaten this species, and yet they didn't." Then, another thought came, an unsettling one. Did they fear humans? He considered it. Perhaps these beasts recognized something in humans. Not physical strength, not superior tech, but something deeper. Willpower, madness, kindness that borders on reckless. The creatures weren't domesticated. They chose to stay, chose to play fetch, chose to curl up at the feet of the only species mad enough to offer them belly rubs instead of war. Maybe, Dr. Odazar realized with a chill running through his spines, it wasn't fear that kept the beasts in line. Maybe it was something worse. Maybe they loved them. They called it an accident, but deep down, everyone in the Galactic Council knew it wasn't. The signs were too deliberate, too brutal, too clean. The ship of the rogue mercenary Tharn Velarax was discovered adrift near the outer rim, hull intact but scarred by something sharp enough to leave grooves in star-forged metal. Inside, the investigation team found only remnants, shredded uniforms, crushed weapons, and walls scorched with claw marks that pulsed with residual heat. There were no bodies, just traces, and at the center of it all, nestled in a sleep pod meant for diplomatic passengers, lay the creature everyone feared yet couldn't look away from, the Nyrak. Sleek, black as deep space, with eyes like molten amber, it purred softly, coiled in comfort, as though nothing had happened. The pod's temperature was perfectly regulated, a soft tune playing from the console nearby, an Earth lullaby. The crew backed away slowly, sensors screaming silent alarms as the Nairak blinked at them, calm but watchful. The Council's message came swiftly. Threat level revised to condition human-linked. Engage with caution. Only under Terran supervision. What truly unsettled the Council wasn't just the destruction, it was the precision. Van Velarax wasn't a fool. He was one of the most feared private hunters in the galaxy, known for bringing down armored sandprakens and harvesting void serpents for profit. When he heard tales of Earth's tame monsters, he dismissed the warnings as soft-brained propaganda. The idea that something as adorable as a Nairak, seen in countless human vids, landing on couches or chasing string, could pose a real danger. Ridiculous. So he came under the cover of night, slipped past the human outpost sensors, and stole the Nairak named Shadow. The human child it belonged to cried. The creature didn't resist. Not at first. But 3 hours into deep space, something changed. Logs recovered from the shredded remains of the ship's database were partially corrupted, but the audio was clear. Heavy breathing, cursing, scraping sounds, and then a chilling whisper in the darkness. It's not purring anymore. Silence followed, then static, then nothing. The sleep pod's logs, however, were undamaged. It showed a different side, a log of the Nairak's vitals, revealing that its aggression levels remained low until the ship drifted beyond Earth's gravitational influence. Then everything spiked, heartbeat, body temperature, muscle tension, just before the system blacked out. Back on Earth, Dr. Alisar reviewed the footage with a mix of awe and dread. It's not just domestication, he said to his team. It's symbiosis. A bond. The presence of humans somehow stabilizes them, removes the predator instinct. They're not safe creatures. They're attached creatures, his assistant gulped. And when separated, Alisar didn't answer, but he played the security footage again. The moment Shadow was discovered, purring softly in the sleep pod, tail curled and relaxed. That image became the warning across the galaxy. Posters hung in every spaceport, translating into hundreds of alien dialects. Do not approach Earth pets without human present. Mercenaries passed the tale among themselves, wide-eyed, always ending with the same line. It purred through the whole thing. Meanwhile, on Earth, the child who lost and then reunited with Shadow was found asleep in a blanket fort, the Nairak wrapped protectively around their legs. The parents simply smiled and closed the door. For them, it was just another bedtime. But the galaxy now understood something terrifying and wondrous. These beasts weren't pets in the traditional sense. They were living weapons on paws, leashed not by chains or tech, but by affection, by loyalty. And only one species could unlock both ends of that leash. Only humans could cuddle the monsters of the stars and live to laugh about it. The Galactic Pet Show was not what the Council had planned, but Earth had a strange way of turning even the most serious diplomatic events into something, well, different. Officially, it was meant to be a summit to discuss the containment of conditioned human-linked species, those terrifying beasts Earth somehow called pets. But the invitation Earth sent back was simple. Let's meet on neutral ground. We'll bring our pets. You bring yours. No one wanted to admit curiosity, but curiosity won. Dozens of species, some having never stepped foot on Earth before, arrived in cloaked ships, security escorts in tow, scanning everything for hidden threats. What they found was not a war camp, not a fortified zoo, but a massive open-air park filled with laughter, food stalls, and creatures that by all known science should have been locked behind reinforced plasma walls. A child skipped past a delegation of tall, armored Salvanians, a six-eyed reptilian beast bouncing behind her, carrying a frisbee in its jaws. The diplomats froze. The creature looked at them, blinked once, and wagged its tail like a puppy. Later, the same beast was seen curled up in a ball, while a toddler decorated its horns with stickers. Then came the wyvern, wings tucked neatly at its sides, a satchel of mail strapped across its scaled chest. It flapped lazily from one human to another, delivering packages with remarkable precision and pausing only to accept treats. One group of aliens huddled in nervous awe as it landed beside them, extended a claw, and dropped a neatly wrapped gift labeled "Welcome" from Earth's Postal Beasts Department. A psychic jellyfish floated above a pond, its tendrils glowing in rhythmic pulses. Children clapped as it changed colors, forming shapes in the air: a dancing bear, a spaceship, a rainbow. One alien muttered, "This thing could erase memories, and they're making it do party tricks." The highlight, however, was Jackson. The same Jackson who once flew through Sector Z38 like it was Sunday morning traffic. He now stood in front of the largest crowd, wearing sunglasses and a relaxed smile. At his side stood Spot. Spot, whose wings shimmered with bioluminescence, whose claws could cut through titanium, and whose purr sounded like the low rumble of a reactor core. Spot, who happily rolled over so a group of alien children could rub his armored belly. One council member, trembling slightly, approached Jackson and whispered, You trained that." Jackson sipped his lemonade and chuckled. "Trained? Nah, Spot just likes people. Unless they're the kind who shoot first. Then he gets grumpy." The council members exchanged horrified glances. "And you live with it?" another asked. "Oh yeah," Jackson replied. "He keeps my feet warm in the winter." By the end of the day, the summit had become a festival. Tense diplomats turned into fascinated spectators. Species that had never trusted each other found themselves laughing side by side as they watched a human teach a three-headed creature how to play fetch. The fear didn't disappear completely, but it changed. It became a kind of respect, a realization. Earth hadn't tamed the galaxy's monsters by force. They had done it with kindness, consistency, and an almost foolish amount of confidence. The pet show ended with a quiet moment. A group of alien delegates sat together watching the sunset, sipping unfamiliar Earth drinks, surrounded by creatures their worlds still considered deadly. One of them spoke softly, almost to himself. Perhaps the danger isn't the creatures. Perhaps it's how easily humans make friends with danger. And as Spot curled up beside Jackson, humming softly in his sleep, the galaxy began to understand a terrifying, wonderful truth. Earth didn't just survive its monsters, it invited them home. When the rift opened near the Federation colony of Viral 9, no one understood what it was at first. A swirling black tear in space, pulsing with violet lightning and humming with unnatural sound. But within minutes, the darkness birthed shapes, things older than time, older than stars. Creatures made of shadow and void, without form but with hunger. They drifted through defenses like mist, devouring ships, tearing apart minds with whispers. Panic exploded across the sector. Communications turned to screaming static. The Federation fleets, proud and vast, fell apart. Command centers sent out desperate messages, but nothing stopped the creatures. Then someone remembered Earth, not its armies, not its technology, its pets. It sounded foolish, insane even. But there was no time for pride. One encrypted message was sent, brief and almost pleading. Requesting assistance, not military. Bring the bonded creatures. Earth responded within the hour. Human transport ships appeared like quiet ghosts, not with war engines, but with specially designed life pods. The hatches opened, and out came the impossible. Beasts with burning eyes and claws that shimmered like starlight. Serpents that slid through dimensions like silk. Massive avian predators with feathers like blades. And each of them walked beside a human. Calm, loyal, ready. The alien soldiers watched from behind shielding bunkers as the first wave was released. Spot, now armored and twice his size, gave a low rumble and launched into the air with a thunderous flap of his wings. A trio of void creatures surged forward. Spot tore through them mid-flight, his tail slicing cleanly, his growl echoing across the battlefield like a song of death. Behind him came others. The Nyrax sprinted like lightning, vanishing and reappearing between enemies, moving so fast it blurred. One of them leaped straight into the mouth of a predator and exploded outward in a rain of violet mist. The human handlers gave orders, not like generals, but like lifelong companions, short commands, gestures, whistles, clicks. And the beasts responded like clockwork, not just attacking, but defending one another, protecting the wounded, coordinating with eerie precision. It was unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. These weren't monsters. They were warriors, thinking, breathing, bonded partners. When the shadow creatures tried to swarm a medical ship, a massive canine beast launched from its human side and unleashed a howl so powerful it turned the shadows solid. Then it shattered them with a single stomp. A floating council ship, observing from orbit, transmitted what they saw to every world within range. Billions watched in silence as the so-called pets pushed the ancient horrors back into the rift. Not once did a beast act alone. Not once did a human falter. They fought together, moving as if they shared one mind. When the final predator screeched and tried to escape into the rift, a wyvern, riding the thermal vents created by atmospheric flames, chased it down and dragged it back into the void, sacrificing itself without hesitation. Its human knelt afterward, silent and mourning. Even the aliens nearby bowed their heads. That day, the galaxy didn't just survive. It watched something mythic unfold. Where science failed and weapons shattered, it was trust that won. Trust between species, between danger and empathy. And in the aftermath, as light returned and survivors crawled from bunkers to blinking skies, a new understanding settled over them all. Earth's creatures were not tamed by accident. They were deadly, yes, but loved. And that love made them stronger than the oldest nightmares in the universe. After the battle, the galaxy wasn't the same. The ancient predators were gone, but their memory burned deep into every star system they had touched. Worlds that had once believed in steel and science now whispered of something stronger, bond. The Federation gathered in an emergency session, still shaken by what they had witnessed. And from that session came a single new law, one that echoed across all channels and was printed in every dialect. Class Omega creatures may not be approached without human supervision. The regulation wasn't born of fear, but respect. The galaxy had seen what happened when these beings were without their humans, and what they could become when standing beside them. To ensure peace, the Federation funded a new facility on Earth, carved into the green hills of New Zealand's South Island. It wasn't a military base or a laboratory. It was a school, a place unlike any other. The Interstellar Pet Bonding Institute, its goal? To train aliens in the ancient Terran art of animal companionship. Thousands arrived from every corner of the galaxy, slimy, feathered, crystalline, scaled. Some with translator units, others with only gestures and hope. All eager to understand how humans did what no one else could, turn nightmares into nap partners. The first lesson was always the same. A human instructor would smile and say, "They're not tools. They're not weapons. They're family." And then they'd hand over a squirming fuzzball or a fire-eyed kitten dragon and whisper, "Now earn its trust." It wasn't easy. Some left in frustration. Others stayed for years. Bonds formed slowly, tested by fear, failure, and scratched-up uniforms. But those who succeeded left changed, wiser, stronger, gentler. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jackson Red had retired from spacefaring life. He now spent his days at a quiet lake surrounded by trees and sky. Spot, larger than ever, lay stretched in the grass, his scales shimmering like molten copper. On his back rested a feathered serpent, wings folded, tail lazily swaying with the breeze. A journalist from the Galactic Network landed nearby, camera drone buzzing. She approached Jackson, notebook in hand, nervous but curious. "The galaxy wants to know," she asked. "What's Earth's secret? How did humans manage all this?" Jackson looked out over the lake, his teeth steaming in the early morning sun. He scratched behind Spot's ear and gave a half smile. "We don't tame monsters," he said simply. "We just treat 'em like family." That line spread faster than light, printed on shirts, quoted in classrooms, whispered by alien children playing fetch with creatures once feared as gods. And across the stars, something shifted. Whenever a new life form was discovered, be it a fire-spitting beast under a volcanic moon, or a cloud being crackling with silent electricity, there was always one question spoken first, with both hope and hesitation. Would a human keep it as a pet? Because now, everyone understood. Earth wasn't powerful because of its armies or ships. Earth was powerful because of its heart, because it saw the terrifying and said, "Come here, buddy, want a treat?" And the universe, forever changed, was better for it.